Hey beautiful souls, it's your girl Loretta Mae Johnson, coming to you with a story that's been burning in my heart for decades. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It means the world to keep this channel growing. Now settle in because this ain't just any story. It's my story, one I've carried like a heavy quilt, stitched with pain, pride, and secrets I only uncovered when I found an old diary in my attic. This tale takes us back to the 1960s, to the heart of the civil rights movement, where I fought for justice alongside my sisters and brothers, only to learn that not everyone was fighting for the same truth. Y'all ready? Let's go. Picture me, Loretta Mae, back in 1965. I was 28, a firebrand in Birmingham, Alabama, with a voice that could rally a crowd and a heart full of hope for a better tomorrow. My hair was pressed and curled, my Sunday dresses starched crisp, but my spirit? Oh, it was raw, unyielding, ready to march through fire for freedom. I was a secretary for the Birmingham Freedom Coalition, a grassroots group organizing voter registration drives, sit-ins, and protests. We were a family, me, my best friend Clara, my mentor Reverend Amos, and my fiancé James Jimmy Carter, a charismatic organizer with a smile that could light up a room. But families, as I learned, can hide secrets darker than a moonless night. My days were filled with typewriter clacks, mimeograph ink, and the hum of spirituals as we planned our next move against Jim Crow. Clara and I would sit in the back of Reverend Amos's church, folding flyers, whispering about the future. Clara was my rock, petite with a laugh like wind chimes, but fierce when it came to the cause. She'd been arrested twice for sitting at whites-only counters, and her courage pushed me to be bolder. Jimmy, now he was the dreamer. Tall, with a voice like molasses, he'd stand on crates at rallies, preaching about equality, his eyes blazing with conviction. I loved him, y'all. Loved him like the air I breathed. And Reverend Amos? He was our North Star. A man in his 50s with a graying beard and a calm that steadied us through tear gas and police dogs. But something was off even back then. I couldn't put my finger on it, but there were moments, whispers cut short when I entered a room, glances between Clara and Jimmy that lingered too long, Reverend Amos's cryptic warnings about trusting too easy. I brushed it off. We were in a war for our rights. Paranoia was part of the deal. Or so I thought. Fast forward to 2025. I'm 88 now, retired, living in a small house in Atlanta. My walls covered with photos of marches, MLK, and my old coalition crew. Jimmy and I never married, life or something else pulled us apart. Clara passed in 98, and Reverend Amos in 75. The movement's scars and triumphs are etched in my bones, but I've made peace with most of it. That is, until last month when I was cleaning out my attic. If you're loving this story, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more. I'm pouring my heart out here. I was sorting through boxes, old protest signs, faded pamphlets when I found it. A small leather-bound diary, its pages yellowed, tucked inside a cracked cigar box. The cover had my initials, LMJ, embossed in gold, but I didn't remember owning it. My hands trembled as I opened it. The first page, in my own handwriting, read, Loretta Mae Johnson, Birmingham, 1964. For my thoughts, my fight, my truth. I froze. I'd kept journals back then, but this one? It felt like a stranger's. The entries started innocently. Notes about meetings, speeches, the thrill of a successful boycott. But as I read on, the words grew heavier, hinting at doubts, fears, and something sinister brewing in our coalition. One entry, dated June 12, 1965, hit me like a freight train. Saw Clara and Jimmy talking alone again tonight behind the church. They didn't see me. Clara's hand was on his arm and he didn't pull away. Why does my heart ache like this? Am I imagining things? Or is there something they're not telling me? My breath caught. I remembered those moments, the unease I'd buried. But the diary didn't stop there. Another entry, August 3, 1965. Reverend Amos warned me to watch my back. Said there's a snake in our garden, but he won't name names. I asked if it's about Jimmy. He just looked away. God, what's happening to us? I sat there, the diary in my lap, my heart pounding like I was 28 again, standing in a Birmingham street with sirens blaring. Who was the snake? Was it Clara, my sister in the struggle? Jimmy, the man I'd planned to build a life with? Or someone else hiding in plain sight? The diary was a map to a truth I'd never faced, and I couldn't stop reading. Each page pulled me deeper, like a river dragging me under. Y'all, if this is hitting you as hard as it's hitting me, hit that subscribe button. We're in this together and I need you with me for what's coming next. The diary's entries painted a picture of our coalition in '65, but not the one-eyed romanticized. We were under pressure, FBI informants, COINTELPRO tactics, and local police breathing down our necks. Reverend Amos had always said, "The enemy ain't just outside. Sometimes it's within." I thought he meant division, egos. But the diary suggested something worse. Betrayal, deliberate and cold. One entry, September 20th, 1965, chilled me. Found a letter in the office, half burned in the trash. It mentioned leaking plans to someone called Hawk. Who's Hawk? Are we being sold out? I showed it to Clara, and she said it's probably nothing. But her eyes didn't meet mine. I closed the diary, my hands shaking. Hawk. That name wasn't in any history book, any movement lore I knew. Was it a code? An informant? And why had I forgotten this diary? Had I hidden it from myself, too scared to face what it held? I looked at the attic stairs, the present pulling me back, but the past wouldn't let go. I was Loretta Mae Johnson, a warrior who'd faced billy clubs and fire hoses. I wasn't about to let a 60-year-old mystery rest. That night I couldn't sleep. The diary sat on my nightstand, whispering. I kept thinking about Clara's laugh, Jimmy's promises, Reverend Amos's warnings. Had I been blind? Had the people I loved most betrayed not just me, but the movement we'd bled for? I needed answers and I wasn't stopping until I got them. But where to start? The diary mentioned names, places, events I'd half forgotten. There was a storage unit in Birmingham where we'd kept coalition records. Maybe something was there. Or maybe I'd have to track down old allies if any were still alive. It was a chilly October morning in 2025 when I decided I couldn't let that diary sit unanswered. At 88, I ain't as spry as I used to be, but my spirit? Still fierce. I packed a bag, grabbed the diary, and drove to Birmingham, to the old storage unit where our coalition kept records. The whole drive, my mind was spinning. Who was Hawk? Was it Clara with her too long glances at Jimmy? Or Jimmy himself with his smooth talk and secrets? Or someone else hiding behind a smile? The diary's words haunted me. Leaking plans. A snake in our garden. If you're feeling that suspense, smash that like button. We're about to peel back the layers. The storage unit was in a rundown lot on the edge of Birmingham, surrounded by weeds and rusted chain link. The air smelled of oil and dust, and the lock on Unit 23 was so stiff I nearly gave up. But I wasn't leaving without answers. Inside, it was like stepping into 1965. Boxes of mimeographed flyers, faded photos, and meeting notes, all coated in dust. I sat on a crate, the diary open in my lap, and started searching. Hours passed, my knees aching, but then I found it. A manila envelope labeled BFC Correspondence, 1965. My heart raced as I tore it open. Inside were letters, some typed, some handwritten, and one caught my eye. A crumpled note in Clara's elegant script. It was dated July 15, 1965, addressed to Hawk. My breath hitched. The note read, Hawk, the voter drive set for August 10th. Amos plans to lead it himself. Meet me at the usual spot. We can't let this get out. See. I stared, my hands trembling. Clara. My Clara who'd marched with me, who'd held my hand when we faced police dogs. Was she leaking our plans? And to who? I felt like the ground was crumbling beneath me. I kept digging, my heart heavy but my resolve stronger. Another letter, this one typed, unsigned, dated August 1st, 1965. Hawk, the coalition's getting too bold. If we don't act, they'll expose us. Feed them the decoy plan. Let the police raid the church instead. Keep your name clean. A decoy plan? I remembered that August. Our voter drive was ambushed. Cops swarming Reverend Amos's church, arresting dozens. We thought it was bad luck, but this was sabotage. Someone in our circle had set us up. I leaned back, tears stinging my eyes. If you're as shocked as I was, hit that subscribe button. Y'all, were uncovering a betrayal that changed everything. I kept reading the diary, cross-referencing with the letters. An entry from August 9, 1965 broke me. Jimmy's been distant. Last night, I saw him slip a note to Clara at the meeting. She smiled, but it wasn't her usual smile. I asked Reverend Amos if I should confront them. He said, Loretta, some truths hurt more than lies. What does he know? I remembered that night, Jimmy's nervous laugh, Clara's quick glance away. I chalked it up to stress, but now? Felt like a conspiracy. I needed more. I drove to the Birmingham Public Library, where they keep archives of civil rights records. The librarian, a kind young woman named Maya, helped me pull microfilm of old newspapers. As we scrolled through grainy articles, one headline from August 11, 1965, stopped me cold. Voter registration drive disrupted by police raid. The article mentioned anonymous tips leading to the raid. Anonymous, my foot. Someone had sold us out, and the diary pointed to Clara and maybe Jimmy. Back home that night, I couldn't stop pacing. The diary's next entry, September 25, 1965, was a gut punch. Overheard Clara on the phone in the office. She said, "Hawk, it's done. They won't suspect us." I wanted to barge in, demand answers, but I froze. If I'm wrong, I'll lose her. If I'm right, God, I can't even think it. I slammed the diary shut, my chest tight. Clara, my sister in the struggle, plotting against us? And Jimmy, had he known? I loved him, planned a life with him, but doubt was creeping in like poison. I called my old friend Ruby, one of the few coalition members still alive. At 90, she's sharp as ever, living in Montgomery. "Ruby," I said, my voice shaking, "you remember anything about someone called Hawk?" There was a long pause. "Loretta," she whispered, "you don't want to go down that road." But I pressed her. Finally, she sighed. Hawk wasn't one person. It was a code used by informants working with the FBI. They infiltrated groups like ours. I heard rumors, but I never thought it was anyone close. Informants. The word hit like a slap. The FBI's COINTELPRO program was no secret now, but back then, we knew they were watching, but not that they'd turned our own against us. Was Clara one of them? Jimmy? I thanked Ruby and hung up, my mind racing. The diary mentioned a meeting spot. The usual spot in Clara's note to Hawk. I racked my brain. Clara used to love this old oak tree behind the church, where we'd sit and talk. Was that it? The next day I went back to Birmingham, to the church, now a community center. The oak tree was still there, gnarled and ancient. I felt foolish, but I searched the ground, the roots, looking for what? A clue? Then I saw it. A small rusted tin box half buried in the dirt. My hand shook as I pried it open. Inside was a single photograph. Clara and Jimmy, arms around each other, smiling in a way that wasn't just friendly. On the back, in Clara's handwriting, "To Hawk, our secret safe. C&J, 1965. I dropped the photo, my heart shattering. Clara and Jimmy, not just betraying the movement, but me. My best friend and my fiancé together working as informants. I wanted to scream, to cry, but anger kept me standing. The diary, the letters, the photo, they were pieces of a puzzle, and the picture was ugly. But there was more. The diary's final entry, October 10, 1965, hinted at a bigger truth. Reverend Amos knows something. He called a private meeting tonight, just me and him. Said it's time I knew the whole truth about Hawk. I'm scared, but I'm ready. Hey beautiful souls, it's your girl Loretta Mae Johnson, back with the next chapter of this heart-wrenching journey. If you're just tuning in, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It keeps this channel going, and trust me, you're gonna need to buckle up for this one. Last time, I told y'all about finding that old diary and the shattering truth it revealed. My best friend Clara and my fiancé Jimmy, the people I trusted most in the Birmingham Freedom Coalition, were likely informants, leaking our plans to someone or something called Hawk. That photograph under the oak tree with Clara's handwriting on the back. "To Hawk, our secret safe. C&J, 1965, broke my heart. And that diary entry about Reverend Amos promising to tell me the whole truth? It left me hanging on the edge. Now let's dive into the storm that hit me after that discovery, and how I started planning to make things right, even 60 years later. It was late October 2025, and I was back in my Atlanta home, the diary and that cursed photo on my kitchen table. At 88, I thought I'd seen every kind of pain, police batons, fire hoses, the loss of friends to the struggle, but this was a knife in my soul. Clara, my sister in the fight, who'd braided my hair before marches, who'd cried with me when we buried our brothers. Jimmy, the man who'd promised me forever, whose kisses felt like home. They'd been playing me, maybe playing the whole movement. I sat there, staring at that photo, tears streaming down my face. How could I have been so blind? I picked up the diary, my hand shaking, and read that final entry again. Reverend Amos knows something. He called a private meeting tonight, just me and him. Said it's time I knew the whole truth about Hawk. I'm scared, but I'm ready. But the pages after that were blank. What happened at that meeting? Why did I stop writing? Did I learn something so awful I buried it, and the diary deep in my mind? I closed my eyes trying to remember 1965, but it was like chasing fog. All I felt was rage, hot and sharp, mixed with the grief that made my bones ache. I called Ruby again, my old coalition friend in Montgomery. Her voice was soft but wary when she answered. Loretta, you still digging into that Hawk mess? I told her about the photo, Clara's note, the letters about decoy plans. There was a long silence. Oh, Loretta, she said finally. I prayed you'd never find out. It broke you back then. Broke me? I pressed her, my voice cracking. Ruby, what do you mean? What did Amos tell me that night? She hesitated, then said, You came to me after that meeting, sobbing like I'd never seen. Said you couldn't trust anyone anymore. You wouldn't tell me details, just that you were done with the coalition. Next thing I knew, you and Jimmy split, and you left Birmingham. I hung up, my heart pounding. Done with the coalition? That didn't sound like me. I'd fought too hard, loved the movement too much. But the diary, the photo, Ruby's words, they were pieces of a truth I'd buried. If you're feeling this pain with me, y'all smash that like button and subscribe. This story's tearing me apart, and I need you with me. I paced my kitchen, memories flashing like lightning. Clara's laugh, Jimmy's promises, Reverend Amos's steady gaze. Had they all lied? And what was the whole truth Amos promised? I couldn't sit still. I drove back to Birmingham the next day, determined to jog my memory. The church, now a community center, was quiet, the oak tree outside a silent witness to my past. I sat on a bench, the diary in my lap, and let 1965 wash over me. I remembered that meeting with Reverend Amos, his office lit by a single lamp, the air thick with tension, his voice low and heavy saying, Loretta, you're the heart of this coalition, but even hearts can be fooled. I remembered my hands gripping the chair, my voice shaking as I asked, Is it Clara? Jimmy? Are they Hawk? Amos had looked at me, his eyes full of sorrow, and said, It's bigger than them, child. Hawk ain't just one person. Bigger than them. Those words echoed now, 60 years later. Was Hawk a network? A group of informants? I needed to know more, but first I had to face the pain. Clara and Jimmy's betrayal wasn't just about the movement. It was personal. They'd been together behind my back, while I poured my heart into our fight. I felt like a fool, a young girl who trusted too much. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I was Loretta Mae Johnson, a warrior who'd faced down hate and won. If they betrayed me, betrayed us, I'd make sure their truth came to light. That's when the idea of revenge took root. Not the kind with violence, that ain't my way, and it ain't safe for YouTube, y'all, but a reckoning. I wanted the world to know what they'd done, to feel the weight of their choices. If Clara and Jimmy had sold out our voter drives, our dreams, I'd expose them, even if they were long gone. But how? Clara passed in '98, Jimmy in 2005. Reverend Amos was gone too. The coalition's records were scattered, and most of our old crew had passed or moved on. But the truth I knew was out there, in archives, in memories, maybe in someone still alive who knew Hawk's secrets. I started planning. First, I tracked down every lead in that diary and those letters. The usual spot by the oak tree was a start. Maybe more clues were hidden there. Second, I'd reach out to historians, civil rights archives, anyone who could help me piece together 1965. Third, I'd use my voice, my YouTube channel, my story to shine a light on this betrayal. If Hawk was a network, others might have been hurt too. Maybe my story would bring them forward. If you're fired up like I am, hit that subscribe button. We're building something here, a truth that needs to be told. I went back to the library where Maya the librarian became my ally. She pulled FBI files declassified under the Freedom of Information Act, and we found references to Hawk in COINTELPRO reports, code for a group of informants feeding intel to disrupt civil rights groups. One report mentioned Birmingham, 1965, and a key female operative in a grassroots coalition. My stomach churned. Clara. I showed Maya the diary, the photo, the letters. Her eyes widened. Ms. Loretta, this could be big. You might have found evidence of a major COINTELPRO operation. Big didn't cover it. This was my life, my heart, my movement. I spent nights poring over the diary, mapping out every name, every meeting. I remembered Clara's charm, how she'd talk her way into any room, how she'd volunteered to handle our correspondence. Was that how she passed info to Hawk? And Jimmy, his late-night strategy sessions, his excuses for missing meetings. Had he been in on it too? I wrote down my plan. Dig deeper into the storage unit, find surviving coalition members, and cross-reference with FBI files. But I needed something public, something that would hit hard. Then it hit me, a documentary. I'd tell my story on YouTube, but bigger. A film, interviews, evidence, all laid bare. I'd call it The Snake in Our Garden. After Reverend Amos's warning, I'd track down anyone left from 1965, even if they didn't want to talk. And if I found proof Clara and Jimmy were Hawk, I'd name them, let their legacy carry the shame. It wasn't revenge in the petty sense, it was justice for me, for the movement, for every soul arrested in that raided church. But there was one last piece. That meeting with Reverend Amos, what had he told me? I closed my eyes, willing the memory back. His voice heavy with regret. Loretta, Hawk's closer than you think. It's not just Clara or Jimmy. It's... His words cut off in my mind like a radio losing signal. What had he said? And why had I run from it? Y'all, if this mystery's got you on edge, smash that like button and subscribe. We're about to unravel the biggest secret yet, and it's gonna shake the ground. It was November 2025 and I was on a mission. At 88, I didn't have the energy of my younger self, but the fire in my belly burned hotter than ever. I decided to make The Snake in Our Garden a reality, a YouTube documentary to expose Clara, Jimmy, and whoever else was tied to Hawk. But first, I needed more evidence, something ironclad to prove they'd sold out our movement. I started back in Birmingham at that dusty storage unit, combing through every box. If you're feeling this drive with me, smash that like button and subscribe. We're digging for truth and it's getting intense. Among the coalition's old records, I found a ledger. Its pages brittle but legible. It listed discretionary funds paid to certain members in 1965, including Clara and Jimmy. The amounts were small, $50 here, $100 there, but the note said consulting fees per Hawk. My heart sank. This wasn't pocket change, it was blood money. I cross-referenced dates with the diary. One entry, July 20th, 1965, matched a payment. Clara came to the office with a new coat today. Said it was a gift. But we're all scraping by. Where's she getting money? I clutched the ledger, anger surging. Clara, flaunting a coat while our voter drive got raided because of her leaks? I called Maya, the librarian who'd become my partner in this hunt. She'd been digging through declassified FBI files and found a report mentioning Hawk operatives in Birmingham, confirming they'd targeted our coalition to disrupt voter registration. One line chilled me. Operative C provided critical intel on August 10th raid, ensuring minimal exposure. Operative C, Clara. I showed Maya the ledger, the diary, the photo. Ms. Loretta, she said, her voice shaking, this could rewrite history. But you gotta be careful. People don't like their heroes exposed. Heroes. That word stung. Clara and Jimmy were heroes to some. Our coalition stars celebrated in old news clippings. But I wasn't here to protect myths. I was here for the truth. I started reaching out to surviving coalition members. Most were gone, but I tracked down Esther, a quiet woman who'd handled our mail in 65. She was 85, living in Mobile, her voice frail over the phone. Loretta, I always wondered why you left, she said. After that meeting with Amos, you were different. I pressed her about Hawk. She hesitated, then whispered. I saw Clara with a man, not Jimmy, behind the church once. White guy, suit, looked official. She called him Hawk. A white man? Not Jimmy. My mind spun. Was Clara working with an outsider? I begged Esther for more, but she clammed up, scared even now. I didn't blame her, COINTELPRO ruined lives. But her words shifted my plan. Hawk wasn't just Clara and Jimmy. It was a network, maybe bigger than I'd imagined. I needed to find that man in the suit. If you're as shocked as I am, hit that subscribe button. This is getting deeper, y'all. I teamed up with Maya and a young filmmaker named Malik, who volunteered to help with the documentary. Malik was a godsend, tech-savvy, passionate about the movement's history, and ready to make the snake in our garden shine. We set up a small studio in my Atlanta living room, filming me reading diary entries, holding up the ledger, the photo, the letters. I poured out my heart, telling the camera about 1965, the marches, the love I'd felt for Clara and Jimmy, and the betrayal that broke me. Malik added grainy footage of Birmingham protests, FBI files flashing on screen, building the suspense. But I needed more voices. I tracked down another coalition survivor, Deacon Willis, now 92, in Selma. He agreed to meet at his church, a tiny brick building with stained glass windows. His hands shook as he held the photo of Clara and Jimmy. "Loretta," he said, his voice low. "I knew something was wrong back then. Jimmy was always slipping away, saying he was meeting contacts. I thought he was cheating on you, but this is worse." He paused, then added, "Reverend Amos suspected them too. That's why he met with you that night. Did he tell you about the list?" "The list?" My heart stopped. "What list, Deacon?" He looked away, his eyes misty. Amos kept a list of suspected informants. He never showed it to anyone, but he said it was in the church safe. After he died, no one could open it. Combinations lost. A safe. In 1965, Amos's office had a small safe behind his desk. Could it still be there? I thanked Deacon, my mind racing. If that list named Clara, Jimmy, or others, it was the key to my revenge. Back in Birmingham, I got permission to search the community center, once Amos's church. The old office was now a storage room, but the safe was still there, rusted but intact. Malik brought a locksmith, who cracked it after hours of work. Inside was a single envelope sealed, labeled for Loretta. My hands trembled as I opened it. A note in Amos's handwriting read, "Loretta, forgive me for not telling you sooner. Hawk is not one person but many. Clara and Jimmy are part of it, paid to leak plans. But there's another higher up. Check the bank records. I'm sorry." Below were names. Clara, Jimmy, and Reverend Amos himself. I dropped the note, my world tilting. Amos? Our North Star, an informant? It didn't make sense. But the note mentioned bank records. I remembered the ledgers, consulting fees. Were they all taking money? I felt sick, but the rage kept me moving. I called Maya, who found bank records from 1965 in the archives, showing deposits to Clara, Jimmy, and God help me, Amos, from an untraceable account linked to an FBI front. The amounts matched the ledger. My mentor, the man who'd warned me about snakes, was one himself. I was done crying. This was bigger than Clara and Jimmy now. My documentary would expose them all, but I needed one last piece. The man in the suit Esther mentioned. I posted a teaser for the snake in our garden on my YouTube channel, showing the photo and asking for tips about Hawk. If you're loving this, y'all smash that like button and subscribe. We're so close to the truth. The response was wild. An anonymous commenter, OldBerm65, messaged me. "I knew Hawk. Meet me in Birmingham, corner of 16th and 5th, tomorrow at noon. Come alone." My heart pounded. Was this a trap? Malik begged me not to go, but I'd faced worse in 65. I drove to Birmingham, the diary in my purse, and stood at the corner, a cold wind biting my skin. A man approached, old, white, leaning on a cane. "Loretta Johnson?" he asked, his voice raspy. I nodded, wary. "I was Hawk," he said. "FBI 1965. Clara and Jimmy were my contacts. Amos too, though he tried to back out." I stared, my blood boiling. "Why?" I demanded. He sighed. "We were told you were radicals, dangerous. They believed it at first. Clara wanted money, Jimmy wanted power. Amos, he was blackmailed." Blackmailed. The word hit hard. I demanded details, but he shook his head. "Check the safe again. Amos left something for you." He walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Back at the community center, I searched the safe again, finding a hidden compartment. Inside was a tape, old, fragile, labeled Loretta, October 10th, 65. My meeting with Amos. I rushed home. Malik hooked up an old cassette player and we listened. Amos's voice crackled. "Loretta, Hawk's a machine bigger than us. Clara and Jimmy took money, but they had my past, my mistakes. I fed them lies to protect you, but it's not enough. Forgive me." It was December 2025 when The Snake in Our Garden went live on my YouTube channel. Within days, it was everywhere. Shared, retweeted, debated in community centers and church basements. My little Atlanta living room became a hub, with Malik, my filmmaker, and Maya, the librarian, fielding messages from viewers. Some called me a hero for exposing the truth. Others said I'd tarnished Clara and Jimmy's legacies. But the hardest calls came from folks like me, veterans of the movement, who'd felt the sting of betrayal too. One woman, Miss Evelyn from Memphis, wrote, "Loretta, your story made me dig up my own past. I found letters proving my cousin was an informant. Thank you for giving us courage." That hit me hard. My revenge wasn't just for me. It was for all of us who'd fought, bled, and trusted only to be sold out. If you're feeling that with me, smash that like button and subscribe. We're healing together, y'all. But the aftermath wasn't all applause. Clara's daughter, Renee, found me through the channel. She was in her 60s, her voice sharp over the phone. "Ms. Loretta, why'd you drag Mama's name through the mud? She was a hero." I took a deep breath and told her about the diary, the photo, the ledger. "Renee," I said, "I loved your mama like a sister, but she took money to leak our plans. So did Jimmy." There was silence, then a sob. "She never told me," Renee whispered. "But she left a letter, said she regretted something awful from 65. Renee sent me that letter." Clara's words were shaky, written in 98 before she passed. "Loretta, if you ever read this, I'm sorry. The FBI offered money, said it'd help the cause long term. I was young, scared, and Jimmy pushed me. We were wrong. Forgive me." I sat there, tears falling. Clara had known her sin, carried it to her grave. Jimmy too, maybe. But Amos? His tape haunted me. They had my past, my mistakes. What mistakes? I needed closure, so I went back to the Birmingham Community Center, to that safe. Inside, I found one last note, tucked in the hidden compartment, in Amos's handwriting. "Loretta, they had my son. The FBI threatened to jail him for life, trumped up charges. I gave them small lies to save him, but it cost us all. You were my daughter in spirit. I hope you understand." My heart broke, but the pieces fit. Amos wasn't a traitor by choice. He was a father cornered. I forgave him right there, under that old oak tree where so many secrets had been buried. The documentary sparked more than stories. Historians picked it up, linking Hawk to other COINTELPRO operations. The Birmingham Library started an exhibit, using my diary and the ledger, honoring the unsung who'd been betrayed. I got letters from young folks like Malik saying my story inspired them to fight for justice today. And that old FBI agent, the man in the suit? He emailed me, anonymous but clear. "I was a cog in a machine, Ms. Johnson. Your film showed me the lives I hurt. I'm sorry. Karma, y'all. Not the kind that punches, but the kind that makes you face your reflection." So what's the lesson? At 88, I've learned trust is precious, but it's not blind. The movement taught me to fight for what's right, even when it hurts. Clara and Jimmy broke my heart, but they didn't break my spirit. Amos's choice, painful as it was, came from love. And me? I found peace by telling the truth, not just for me, but for every soul who marched with us. If you're carrying a secret, a hurt, let it out. Speak it, write it, share it. That's how we heal, how we rise.